I'm Tara Walford-Levy, and I'm the Managing Director of Ads Marketing here. And I'm thrilled to have with me Ajaz Ahmed, who is the founder of AKQA. And Ajaz, thank you for being the subject of the Executive Insight in this quarter's edition of Think Quarterly. We love the article. And now actually the author of an upcoming book, Velocity, The 7 New Laws for a World Gone Digital. We're thrilled to have you to talk about all of that.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I was in New York, so I thought it would be great to drop into Google and hang out with you.
Fantastic. Well, we're enjoying hanging out on the Hangout. You founded AKQA 17 years ago, right?
That's right, yeah.
And then your vision then was to sort of basically help brands see what they could do with digital, because you had this incredible vision for what that could look like. And now we're here in 2012, and you've essentially written the proverbial book on it. How has your vision or your mission changed in the past few decades?
Well, when we founded AKQA 17 years ago, we had a very clear goal, which was to put multi-mediocrity out of its misery. And that was the real reason. We weren't the first digital agency. We were just looking at some of the work that was being produced. And we just thought that great brands could tell their stories much better through software. And we want to be the company that helps them to do that through innovation and great ideas.
Cool. And today, is it the same?
Today, the amazing canvas that we have available just gives us a phenomenal platform to be able to produce ideas on a whole variety of devices and tell that story through a whole variety of different ways. For example, location-based ideas on mobile, ideas that could never happen before on social networks. So we're doing this great campaign right now with Nike where we're looking for the next generation of footballing talent, and the way we're looking for that is on social networks. And an idea like that just wouldn't have been possible 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're just thrilled that the canvas available for expression is so diverse. It allows us to really produce a large number of ideas in a different way.
Cool. And when you think about multi-mediocrity as an industry, how close are we? Is it still in business? Is it out of business?
The key word is accessibility.
Yeah.
And you still have some brands who produce these ridiculously heavy flash sites, and it just makes no sense. It just makes no sense whatsoever to have this barrier in the way of any kind of experience.
Yeah.
And I've never been a big fan of anything that gets in the way of an experience. And the truth is that digital is the most visible expression of a client's brand right now. And it's so important to make sure that's as friction-free as it can possibly be. So you've got to take out steps in the process, not introduce new steps in the process.
Yeah.
So accessibility, ease of use, those are the really important points.
Cool. Yeah.
I think that it takes a while for a community to. There's always you get your early adopters, and then you get the early adopters then move on to the next thing, and then it takes a while for people to realize what's possible. And I think this is a point in history where consumers are actually ahead of organizations in the way that they embrace technology. And to a certain extent, a lot of clients are actually ahead of agencies in the way they embrace technology. And it used to be that there were agencies who would go to clients with different kinds of ideas and different kinds of ways to express themselves. But the truth is that consumers are ahead of the brands, and the brands are slightly ahead of the agencies. So what's important is for the big agencies, the conglomerate agencies, really to catch up. Because what's happened is a lot of those agencies have become factories for producing a 30-second spot or a static print ad. Whereas the whole point of being an agency is you have to be a factory of ideas. And when you're a factory of ideas, it doesn't really matter what the media is you try and express a brand spirit. What you have to do is express that spirit in the most relevant and exciting way for the audience in a way that's really compelling.
So what do you think the premise or the way that people sort of come up with ideas they feel passionate about is different than it was 20 years ago?
Sure. There was this great film that was produced a few years ago, and the film was called Art and Copy, and it had some of the most amazing people in advertising in there. So it had some real icons and visionaries of advertising like Lee Clow from TVWA or Dan Wyden from Wyden and Kennedy. And these are the people like Lee Clow and Dan Wyden. They're truly extraordinary people. And to a certain extent, everyone in the business kind of stands on the shoulders of giants because of the amazing work that people like Lee and Dan have put together. But that movie was called Art and Copy. Today, if that film was being made, they'd probably call it Art and Code. That's what they'd probably call it. And they'd have just as much of a component of software and telling stories through software as they would through just copy. And I think that's the transition that the industry is making right now.
When you get a brief, I mean, does it look the same as the brief looked 10 years ago? How do you organize your team to come up with an idea against the brief?
Yeah, so I'll let you into an AKQA secret,
okay.
Which is every time we get a brief, our main goal is we take a brief that small and we try and make it an opportunity that big.
Interesting.
And if we do that, that's AKQA, that's the AKQA spirit. And that's really how we grew the agency from just being a startup in a basement to now being one of the biggest independent organizations in the world. So that's really our secret. Is that we've always taken a brief that's that small, and we've tried to make it an opportunity that big, and we try and do that internationally in 8 different offices with 1,200 different people. So that's our goal.
That's cool. Well, so that reminds me of one of the 7 secrets or the 7 new laws in your world gone digital.
Sure.
I know the book's not out yet, but am I able to share
Yeah,
one?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that jumps out at me was this. It's easier done than said, right? And that, as you were talking, is sort of what I was thinking about, right? Because no one's sort of done it more than AKQA.
Right.
And as an ex-entrepreneur, like intuitively, internally, it kind of resonates. But like, what exactly does that mean?
So when we talk about it's easier done than said, what we mean is creating a culture that's absolutely focused on execution and delivery. That's what we talk about. And in the book, I mentioned that from my point of view, from what I've seen in the industry, there's 2 kinds of agencies. There's the agencies that have offices that look like a showroom, and that's great for them. And there's agencies that look like a workshop.
Yeah.
And we think that the agencies that look like a workshop where stuff gets made, we think that those are the agencies that really are the ones that are relevant at this age and able to create a culture of execution. And in large organizations, creating a culture of execution means that the leaders have to really get their shirt sleeves rolled up, and they really have to get stuck into the details.
So if you're starting out in the business today, right, and you sort of want to become, either you are already or you want to sort of grow your innovative skills and your creative skills, what's your advice to them? Where should they start? What should they do?
I think the first one and the most important is being curious. And Stefan and I really talk about this a lot in the book. And being curious and having a curious mindset is probably the most important attribute for someone who's into innovation, because being curious means that you're open to change. So that's what we try and embrace. So the key thing is that when there's a new platform or a new device or a new idea, it's important to find out whether it's relevant to embrace that and go for it. And I think what happens sometimes is this tendency or this reluctance not to embrace it. And that reluctance is what is we say in the book, there's a phrase we have, which is the enemy of innovation is entitlement, the sense of entitlement. And what the most important thing for someone who wants to be innovative is to never have a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
To make sure that you have to earn your wins every single day. And I think that's actually the main difference between this always-on economy that's changing constantly, where desktop freelancers can take on international conglomerates and compete at the same level.
Yeah.
Where we've got amazing entrepreneurs from all over the world who are disrupting entire industries. It's just absolutely fascinating that a great product like Instagram, for example, can be sold for $1 billion the day that Kodak files for bankruptcy. We live in some fascinating times.
Yeah.
And
what are a couple of the mistakes that you or the company has made along the way, or other companies or individuals you've seen that folks can learn from to say, like, okay, I may make my own mistakes, but I'm not going to repeat that?
So, I'll share one story with you.
Okay.
Which I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, and I'll probably get some sticks.
Just you and me.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So for doing it, but a few years ago, when everyone was going crazy for social media, we obviously had it's very important. So we embraced it, and we made sure that our clients were really focused on making sure that they embrace social media. We've come up with some great work. And if you speak to a lot of the, yourselves included, some of the great social companies, you've got some great case studies of our work that we produced. But there was an interesting thing that happened, was how agencies, we tend to produce like a thought leadership piece. And our thought leadership piece on social was this deck that was 45 megabytes in size.
Okay.
And I just thought this is real irony between social and having a deck that's too big to share. So that was definitely one of the things that we probably could have done better. But you know what? We make like, the truth is that we make mistakes all the time, and it's true what they say, you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to making lots more mistakes, because that's what keeps you hungry, that's what keeps you making progress, that's what keeps driving you. It's because
makes you human.
Right, and I think if you win all the time, that's what creates a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
It just becomes so having the odd learning and having being a better listener.
Yeah.
And learning from mistakes is what we do. But we make them all the time, and we embrace it.
Great.